Keith Uberman says that this man is a quack. Let's see if he's a quack. This man, whose identity I will disclose because I know that very few of you will recognize him from this old photograph, nor will you recognize the guy on the right. And about 90% of the people who voted for Obama can't even tell you the name of the man pictured in the middle. But the man on the left sat on ABB's board. Let me tell you what ABB is. Based in Zurich, Switzerland. It's a European engineering giant. He was there when Bill Clinton sold a nuclear reactor, or two of them actually, so that North Korea could have electricity. Not bombs, but electricity. The sale of the nuclear technology was a high-profile contract. And ABB's chief executive visited North Korea and announced that the deal would go through with the communist government. Even though Rumsfeld indicated through his office later when he became Secretary of Defense that he did not recall it being brought before the board at any time, quote unquote. During his period as Reagan's special envoy to the Middle East, 1983-1984, Rumsfeld was the most senior conduit for crucial American military intelligence, hardware, and strategic advice to Saddam Hussein, who was then fighting Iran. But you can see that Rumsfeld here is beginning to develop a profile as a knowledgeable person. Not just a pretty face. He's not just another pretty face. The United States pro-Iraq policy was adopted when the tide of the Iran-Iraq war turned strongly in Iran's favor, and it looked as if Iran might overrun Iraq completely. Although the United States was hesitant to support a Soviet client state, the prospect of a greatly expanded Iranian influence in the region outweighed those concerns when Rumsfeld visited Baghdad. In December of 1983, he and Saddam Hussein had a 90-minute discussion that covered Syria's occupation of Lebanon, preventing Syrian and Iranian expansion, preventing arms sales to Iran by foreign countries, and increasing Iraqi oil production via a possible new oil pipeline across Jordan. Rumsfeld also informed Tariq Aziz, Iraqi deputy prime minister and foreign minister, that, quote, our efforts to assist were inhibited by certain things that made it difficult for us, citing the use of chemical weapons. Has opinions. He doesn't see the world as all gray and fuzzy. He sees some things clearly in focus. During the 1996 presidential election, Rumsfeld served as national chairman to the campaign of Bob Dole. Rumsfeld was a founder and active member of the Project for the New American Century, a neoconservative think tank dedicated to maintaining U.S. primacy, and we know that that's bad. We cannot have the U.S. being the number one superpower in the world, so anybody that would promote such a notion is undoubtedly evil and suspicious at best. January 29, 1998, he signed a PNAC letter calling for President Bill Clinton to implement regime change in Iraq. From January to July 1998, Rumsfeld chaired the 9-member commission to assess the ballistic missile threat to the United States. They concluded that Iraq, Iran, and North Korea could develop intercontinental ballistic capabilities in 5 to 10 years, and that U.S. intelligence would have little warning before such systems were deployed. 1976, he goes way back. During the 1976 Republican National Convention, Rummy received 1 vote for vice president, although he did not seek the office, and the nomination was easily won by Ford's choice, Senator Bob Dole. Economist Milton Friedman said that he regarded Reagan's pick of Bush as, quote, the worst decision not only of his campaign but of all his presidency, unquote, and that Rumsfeld was his preference. Had he been chosen, Friedman noted, I believe he would have succeeded Reagan as president. Rumsfeld was named Defense Secretary soon after George W. Bush took office in 2001. He immediately announced a series of sweeping reviews intended to transform the U.S. military into a lighter force. These studies were led by Pentagon analyst Andrew Marshall. Following the September 11, 2001 attacks, Rumsfeld led the military planning and execution of the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan and the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Rumsfeld pushed hard to send as small a force as possible to both conflicts, a concept codified as the Rumsfeld Doctrine. Rumsfeld's plan resulted in a lightning invasion that took Baghdad in well under a month, with very few American casualties. That right there is reason enough to remove him from office. That just won't cut it. It's got to be slow, painful, bloody, because for one thing, it takes the media, a little bit of time to get set up and record all that and start spinning it on American television. Bush retained Rumsfeld after his 2004 presidential re-election. In December 2004, Rumsfeld came under fire after a town hall meeting with U.S. troops where he responded to a soldier's comments about inferior military equipment by saying, quote, "You go to war with the army you have, not the army you want." The meaning of that statement was our troops were not supplied with vehicles that could withstand a roadside bomb, because those vehicles arrived for a lightning invasion that took Baghdad in well less than a month with very few casualties. Once Baghdad was occupied by our troops and the Iranian-inspired insurgency began to kill our troops with roadside bombs, a soldier complained, justifiably. Rumsfeld was deemed an idiot for not pre-equipping all our vehicles with blast-proof armor to withstand those roadside bombs. I don't think that was the thing to do. I think the thing to do was to kick Iran's ass to hell for even thinking about supplying terrorists with roadside bombs or the ability to make those bombs. Rather than faulting Rumsfeld, I would fault whoever it is that chose to ignore the Iran threat.